Hi everybody, it's Brittany. I want to apologize to you guys for not having this video out sooner. I started to do it and I edited it and I didn't like how it was going. So I just decided I might as well just do it again. Sometimes the remake is better than the original. Um, I think that only applies to like Pet Cemetery and it. Um, but also, I just want to let you guys know I really appreciate your patience for me getting these videos out. It's been a little hectic around here with school, and I was visiting family in Ohio. As you see, I'm wearing my Buckeye shirt. Uh, Not to say that I'm not still a Nittany Lion. During most of the year, I am 100% Nittany. But come football season, I bleed scarlet and gray. Sorry, y'all. But anyway, um, we'd had some issues in my family, including illnesses, and recently somebody in my family passed away. So it's been a little difficult around here. So again, I really just appreciate you guys being patient with me and understanding. We all have lives. And as you can tell, my voice is a little scratchy. I woke up this morning and it was like, oh no. The worst part is this is not the only video that I need to do today. So I hope my other professor understands that illnesses happen, which I know he will. Um, but today I wanted to talk with everybody about setting goals, writing goals, and defining behavior. Um, One of the biggest things that we have to do and apply behavioral analysis is what is known as operationalizing the definition of a behavior. So what that means is we have to write it in such a way that anybody who reads it can see it. It has to be measurable. It has to be observable, specific, and I'll get into that in a minute. But also to go along with that, we need to be able to write a goal on how to change that behavior. Now, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today seems like it's kind of geared towards changing challenging behavior, but we don't always want to just change challenging behavior. Sometimes we want to get appropriate behavior to occur or occur more often, or even in there's some cases that the behavior is completely appropriate, but it's just not happening at the right amount, or it's happening too often, or it's not happening in the right settings or with other people. So I'll try to cover that a little bit better when I get into things about changing behavior and setting those goals. So without further ado, let me open up my slideshow for you guys. Oh, wrong one. So before we write a goal, we need to know one thing, and that's the behavior. We need to know, do we want to increase that behavior or do we want to decrease that behavior? And also, we want to ask some WH questions. If you work with small children or you have a small child at home, this is probably something you're already working on with your child. Now just kind of flip it around and focus it on you and how you can use these WH questions to help your child. So questions you want to ask are who, what, where, when, why, and I know it's not technically a WH question, but how is always, one of those you still want to ask. So the same questions that we learned about in grammar school, and well, I guess it's not grammar school anymore, but in school and in language arts and things like that is what we want to ask here. And again, I'm sorry guys, I'll be sniffling a lot because the pollen in Georgia is unbearable right now. It's tree pollen, they're flowering and it's horrible. So if I sniffle and sneeze, I apologize in advance. But let's start with who and what. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, who is doing the behavior, or who do you want to see do the behavior? And also, who is seeing this behavior, who isn't seeing this behavior? And what I mean by that is sometimes when we look at behavior, it doesn't always what is known as generalize. And that means it goes across different locations and across different behaviors. And the behavior is durable. Will it last? So when I say who is seeing the behavior, who is not seeing the behavior, kind of part of that has to do with that generalization. So let's say that your child is potty training. And I know some of us have gone through this, but let's say that your child is potty training and he or she goes potty at home for mommy and daddy, but won't go potty at daycare for the teacher. So mom and dad sees this potty behavior, but teacher doesn't. So it doesn't mean it's not there. It's just that we want to get that behavior to go across to different people. The next questions you want to ask are those what questions. What is the behavior? Is it potty? Is it, when and being specific, is it voiding, urinating in the toilet, or is it going poo? What does the behavior look like? And we're not going to talk about potty looks. So what does the behavior look like? And by this, I mean, or what do you want it to look like maybe? So when we're talking about certain behaviors like, and we'll go with a challenging behavior for this one. A challenging behavior looks like, let's say, hitting. Because that's the first thing that popped in my head. What does the behavior look like? Well, you want to say, well, are they hitting you with an open hand or a closed hand? Are they hitting you on a certain part of the body? Are they hitting with a certain amount of force? What does that look like? So you want to try to make that as specific as possible. That way, anybody who reads this can say, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have seen this. And that way also, like, it gets rid of those chances that people misinterpreting it and saying the behavior occurs more often than it does, or doesn't occur as often as it should, and things like that, because they misread the behavioral definition, or it was not well written, and it's kind of hard to say, oh, okay, I've seen this, or I have not. So more questions to ask are where, when. Let me move my little box here so you guys can see. So where do you see this behavior? This, again, can be positive or a challenging behavior or inappropriate behavior. Where do you see the behavior? Where do you want to see the behavior? Also when, and I don't just mean like, so when is kind of an important thing, because sometimes behavior happens during certain periods of time. Like transition is a big one for a lot of our kiddos on the spectrum. Lunchtime, maybe they have a hard time at lunchtime. Maybe bedtime is a time that you see this behavior. Between two different preferred activities, maybe something's going on there. And these can be good things or bad things, or things you just want to see more of. So it's not just specifically, and I'm going to beat this like a dead horse, because not all behavior is bad. Behavior is just what we do. So that's why I keep emphasizing this. So also, where do you want to see this behavior? And, when do you want to see this behavior? Is it something that is an appropriate behavior when a child is alone, but it's not an appropriate behavior out in public? So let's say, home alone, sucking your thumb is okay when you're a certain age. But you go out in public and start sucking your thumb, and it's not very appropriate behavior. Or let's make it a little uncomfortable, because sometimes behavior is uncomfortable for others. What about, and I had this discussion with my professor recently, what about masturbation? I apologize. I know that might make some people cringe, but it is a natural behavior that occurs. It is completely appropriate for this behavior to occur in private settings like the bathroom or at home when you're alone. But it is not an appropriate behavior to be occurring in a public place around other people. So when do we want to see it? We want to see this behavior when, or we don't, or when do we want to see it? Well, the child can have this behavior at home by themselves, but we don't want them to have this behavior out in public. So sometimes that when it can, it's not sort of a, when is it a, or when don't you want to see it, or I know the negatives, I hate those. You don't want to see it during this time, but sometimes a behavior is natural. It's okay to be in one place and not the other. So, and I'll get off that soapbox. Sorry, y'all. Why? For me, why is one of those extremely important questions. And especially for individuals who are in the ABA field or coming into the ABA field, you wanting to know the function of the behavior. Parents, if this is something you're trying to learn about, the function is just the behavioral analytic way of saying purpose. What is the purpose of this behavior? Every behavior that we do has a purpose. And as you guys have seen, if you've watched my other videos, I've talked about the functions of behavior. That's what we want to see. We want to know why the behavior is occurring. Or in some cases, is there a reason for the behavior to not be occurring at an appropriate rate? So, and sometimes when that happens, it's like, so let me try this a different way. So behavior is done by an individual because in some ways this has worked for them, whether that's to get attention, to get escape, which if you guys want, please go back and revisit my functions of behavior videos. Or I can, if you guys want, I can add a comment or some comments down at the bottom to tell you guys a little bit more about the functions of behavior. Sometimes it's sensory. People do it because it feels good. And the last one that Dr. Brian Iwata usually talks about is pain. Are they doing it because they're in pain? And this is from a functional assessment screening tool called the FAST, or short for FAST. Dr. Iwata is probably one of the most knowledgeable individuals on functions of behavior. So if you're ever curious about functions of behavior, I would look into some of his research. But I apologize for chasing that little bunny. But we want to know what the function of the behavior is so we can either increase or decrease the behavior. So other questions that I would say you want to ask, not just as a professional, but as a parent, is why do you want to change this behavior? Or why do you want to increase this behavior? Why do you want to decrease it? Is this, and I kind of put on here from the Cooper text, some of their priorities for behavior change programs. One of them is behavior dangerous? Is the behavior dangerous to the child, to others, to property, things like that? If that's the case, then yeah, you probably want to change that behavior. Also, does this behavior isolate the child from their peers or from, being able to function in a normal society? I know a lot of people who work with autistic kids don't kind of like that, the way I said that, and I apologize, but purpose of ABA. I guess my puppy's having one heck of a dream. But anyway, the purpose of ABA is to make people's lives better and make it so they can function in normal society. And right now, this is just kind of what we have. I mean, I've talked with other people about this before, and things are changing and getting better. There's more awareness for autism. And maybe there'll come a day where stimming and things like that are acceptable by everybody, which I really hope that would be great, that happens. But right now, that's just not the case. So is the behavior going to isolate them from other peers, other people? Maybe that's something we want to change. Does this behavior have a negative impact on your family or the child's learning environment or things like that? And that one specifically is for, excuse me, for challenging behaviors. Or, I mean, it could also be, something that they do that's appropriate, but they don't do it at a high enough level. So is the fact that they're not communicating with peers causing a negative impact on the child's life? Oh yeah, because they need to be talking more, because they need to be able to talk to other people. It's just how society works. One thing that I kind of want to ask, and this is specific for parents, is this really important to your family? Is this, because if it's not important to your family, then we don't need to be changing it. More purpose for ABA is socially significant behaviors. And those generally mean what is important to the family. It doesn't mean what's important to me as a student or an RBT or, a behavior analyst, hopefully, February. Keep your fingers crossed. But anyway, it matters to me what you think is important, or it matters to your BCBA what you feel is important behavior change, because they may have their own preconceptions of what's important for this child, but none of that matters. What matters is you. You are the expert in this child. Yes, your BCBA, your RBT, your BA, or BC, ABA, all those people have this wonderful knowledge base, but just because they have a knowledge base in behavior and analysis does not mean they know your child. You know your child. You know what's important to you. You know what's important to them. So if it's not truly important to you, speak up. Tell them, hey, no. I actually did this recently with my son. One of the behaviors we were talking about was appropriate attention-seeking behavior. And then recently he's become more and more impatient, is how I would describe him. So he won't wait. So I felt like, I could handle him, mommy, pulling on me and trying to get my attention, because at least he's communicating to me. But I can't handle him not being able to wait while I cook dinner, or while I answer a phone call, or while I'm talking to the BCBA. I need him to wait. So I felt for myself that was more important than him seeking the attention appropriately, because I know Brendan can seek attention appropriately. But he can't show me he can wait. So what's important to you? And to go along with that is, if it's important to you, then it's probably going to be something you can stick to the plan to do, because you want to see that behavior change. And I apologize for I thought I changed this, but I guess I didn't save it. This should be insure, not insure like insurance. But because it's going to make sure that you stick to the plan to make this behavior change. And I got off on a really long tangent on that, guys. I'm sorry. And don't forget the how. How long has this been occurring? And how can you measure this behavior? Is it happening multiple times? Is it happening for a long duration? Is it not happening during certain periods of time? Is there a long gap between the two behaviors? Things like that. If you guys are curious about measuring behaviors, put a comment down in the link, and if that's something you guys are interested in, I can do a training. And I actually think I said this before, but if you guys are curious in measuring behavior, let me know, and I can actually do a training specifically for how to measure behavior. Excuse me, guys. I'm going to get a quick drink. Okay. So, let's get this out of y'all's way again. Ooh, there we go. So next, now that we have the behavior defined, what do we go on to? Well, let's move on to our goal writing. So when we're writing a goal, we still want to keep those WH questions in mind. Who do we want to see achieve this goal? Who do we want to see the behavior? Who do we want to see the new behavior? What could, if it's an inappropriate behavior, what could a replacement behavior be? Where do we want to see the new goal behavior? When do we want to see it? It's in the child's future or during their routine. And how do we measure learning? And I apologize, this should have said learning. But yeah, how do you measure the child's learning? Did they do it as often as we wanted? Did they do it as long as we needed them to do? So on and so forth. So I put two different ways of measuring goals on here, or to writing goals on here. The first side, it comes from, from Cooper text. The goal should be measurable, observable, specific, repeatable, and observable. Oh, that says objective, sorry. So this is kind of, and this is the same for when we're writing a behavior. They need to be these specifics. Also, I put on here, and it was, I guess I knew the acronym SMART, but for some reason it just didn't click. But it was pointed out to me that this is a really great way of writing goals. So with goals, you want them to be as specific as possible to the child, to the area, to the behavior. Measurable, again, how are we going to measure it? If you can't measure a goal, is it really worth even trying? Is it achievable? If you make a goal for a child to be able to tell you a story and they can't even speak, is that even achievable for that child? Probably not. So maybe your goal is to have them make certain sounds like the ba or ma sounds. So that would be more achievable. Relevant. What is relevant to the child's life, to your life? And when you write the SMART and the Cooper text goal writing here, you can use this not just for your child, but for yourself or for your other clients if you have them, or your work setting. If you're a supervisor, use them for your supervisees. But is it relevant to them? And finally, is it timely? Can you make this goal in the set time that you have? So this should have been done a little bit differently. So what I'm going to try to do is, I don't know if this will work here. There we go. We'll cover it up so you can't see it. So I wanted to try and play a little game with you guys. Is it an example or a non-example of behavior? So when Max is at home, Mom tells Max to clean his room. He gets mad. Is this an example of behavior? Right, it's not an example of behavior. because mad is not observable, measurable, specific, and it's not objective. And last, I'm forgetting one. But yeah, it's not, you can't measure mad. You can't observe mad. I mean, you can observe behavior that accompanies that emotion, but an emotion itself is not a behavior. An emotion is is a private event, is what it's known as. It's an inside the skin event that you can't see. So, I mean, you can't, but you can, if you can see somebody's, brows furrowing, the teeth clenching, that would be more measurable. But what I did was, I was like, you know what, let's come up with a better example. So my example is when at home and mom tells Max to clean his room, he yells no and throws his toys at the wall. Well, that is specific, it's measurable, it's objective, and it's repeatable, and yeah, it's observable. I can see it, I can measure it, I can, my goodness, none of my stuff changed at all. Let's do this. This should have said frequency. Sorry, guys. That's what happens when your slides don't save and you hate your computer. So we can measure the frequency of toys being thrown. You can measure the frequency of the no. You can, it's specific, it's objective, it's repeatable. So let's see if I can get, I'm just going to keep it minimalized like this, guys, because I'm a little upset with why my slides didn't save. But anyway, so let's cover this up again so y'all can't cheat. So during science class, when working independently, Danny smacks her open palms on the desk repeatedly. This continues until Mr. Nye removes the task and sends Danny to the hall. So is this an example or a non-example of behavior? Right, it's an example of behavior because it is measurable, it's objective, repeatable, specific, and observable. And also, this could give us, excuse me, a possible function of behavior. Now, without doing a functional behavior assessment, you can't be 100% sure. But this looks to me like Danny's trying to get out of this behavior, or this task. It might be too hard for her, so she doesn't want to do it. Or it might be, maybe she doesn't like to work alone. Maybe she's trying to get it. So there's just different things you can look at. For me, I would think this is an escape because it might be too hard and she doesn't know how to ask for a break. So an example of a goal. So let's go back to Max. Max was throwing his toys at the wall, and he was screaming no. So what might a goal be for Max? So I said that when Mom asked Max to clean his room, he will begin the process within 1 minute of the request. We will know he's met this goal when he complies to Mom's request 3 consecutive times across 3 opportunities. Now that, it's very kind of like a technical definition, and this is probably not the way that if you're a parent you're going to write it, but this is how as the person, as an individual who works in ABA, this is probably more like how they would write it. So I want my goal. I have my when, and my who, my what, where, when. I did not include a why in here, but you don't necessarily have to put a why in your goal. And if it makes you feel better, you can, but I wouldn't add the why to it. And we know we're measuring success by, he listened 3 times, and 3 times he complied with mom's request, hey, go clean your room within 1 minute across 3 different opportunities. So what that means is he may not have to clean his room every day, but mom gives him the opportunity to clean his room. When she gives him the request, that's an opportunity. So he'll clean the room. So each time that she asks him to clean his room and he complies, that is him meeting the goal. So let's go up here. So we're going back to Danny and Mr. Nye. So, yeah, if you guys caught on, maybe it's funnier to me than it is everybody else. But when presented with a novel or difficult task, Danny will ask Mr. Nye for a break using her break card. Now, what a break card for me would be, and just pretend this doesn't have writing on it. This would say break across here, and it's like a little triangle. And it would say on one side, I'm okay, I need a break. And then if Danny needs a break, she'd flip it over. If she's okay, she flips it back. So that would be her break card. So we know that Danny has met this goal when she asks for a break across 5 opportunities. So when she appropriately uses her break card, that is an opportunity, that's one time. So if she does this let's say she does this 5 days in a row appropriately, oh, she's met her goal. Great job. We measured that. It was specific. It was observable. It was objective. And we answered the who, what, where, when, and how. So one thing that I thought that was kind of important to discuss was when behavior is more than you can handle. Now, if you're a parent, this may sound, I don't want to make it sound like I'm belittling you, because I'm a parent too. But one important thing about behavior and people who are in the behavior field is knowing your limits. And as a parent, it's really good to know your limits as well. So that's what I mean by the behavior's more than you can handle. I'm not saying that you can't deal with it, so you're gonna drop your baby off at the fire station. I'm just saying that you might need extra help if it comes down to these times. And one thing that I want to make sure everybody understands is it is okay to say I need help, because there will come a time where you'll see something, your child do something, and you are just completely flabbergasted. You have no clue what to do. And you know what? That's okay. Go talk to that behavior professional. Go talk to the teacher. Talk to somebody who might have experience working in this. So, and if you are in the field of ABA, it's okay to say, I don't know. It's actually written in our ethical code, guys. Make sure you're, knowing your level of competence, or knowing what you're capable of, your competency, whether that's as a supervisor, as a BCBA, as an intern, or an RBT. Do you know what you can handle? And when you know you can't, are you going to speak up? So, off my soapbox and down to this again. So sometimes behaviors might be more, and this is kind of geared towards parents, it might be too much to handle if it becomes extremely dangerous to your child or to others. So what I'm meaning like that is if it's dangerous to your child, like some children have severe self-injurious behavior. And what I mean by self-injurious behavior is literally they hurt themselves. Um, children can they can scratch at their skin, they can bite themselves, they can pull hair. I mean, things like that. Is it causing, bodily harm to them? Then maybe you should talk to somebody who has experience working in this. Is it causing harm to others? I know I've been punched in the face, not so by a child, and actually that child was mine, and that was a little more than I could handle. So I'm like, hey, what do I do about this? And they helped me with, or somebody was able to help me. Is this behavior chronic? Now, what I mean by chronic is it happens so often that it interferes with the child's ability to, to function. They could like, and if you guys watch my videos, you guys know that my son struggles with going to the bathroom in new places. So one of the examples of chronic behavior was he refused to go to the toilet for, it was almost 24 hours, guys. And that level was so bad that I almost had to take him to the emergency room. But we finally were able to get him to relieve some pressure from his bladder by urinating just a little bit. But behavior was so chronic that we couldn't leave my in-laws' house until he was able to go to the bathroom. We couldn't leave the bathroom until he was able to go to the bathroom. It was that bad. So by chronic, is it so bad that they can't function? Is it causing extreme issues in your family? So that's one time that it's okay to say, hey, I need help. Is the behavior getting worse? And this is specifically for those problem behaviors. You know what? It could be a behavior you want to see, but it's getting worse. Like you're not seeing it, it's getting worse, as in you can't see it anymore. Like it's tapering off. But is the behavior getting worse? So like say it was going okay, it was manageable, and then all of a sudden it got super out of control and you're like, oh my goodness, what just happened? Maybe it'll be good to talk to your professional. And maybe they're implementing something called an extinction plan, or extinction, which sometimes leads to what is known as an extinction burst. And this is when the behavior climbs to, it's like a super high peak, and it's gonna be intense, guys, when it's that level. So if you see that and you don't know what to do, ask for help. And sometimes if they're doing that extinction thing, the extinction procedure, you're like, oh, okay, it's all gone, and all of a sudden, woo, it jumps up again, and you're like, uh-oh, what just happened? That is spontaneous recovery. So you can talk to your professionals, and they can help you guys manage those times. Also, if the behavior is not changing, maybe the program isn't working right, or maybe we just don't understand how we're implementing the program. And the behavior just isn't changing. It's not getting better. It's not getting worse. It's just staying the same. That's the time to go ahead and talk to somebody. And that one goes for professionals as well. If you're working with a child and you notice that nothing has changed, that might be the time to ask, is this intervention actually working for this child? Because sometimes you kind of learn, it sometimes is kind of like a game, a puzzle. Like you're like, all right, put this piece here, this here. Okay, that worked. Oh, let's grab this one. No, that doesn't work. So it's kind of figuring it out. So if it's not changing, bring it up to your supervisor if you're a professional, or if you're a parent, bring it to your BCBA, your behavior therapist, or your psychologist or your family doctor. And like I said, it is okay to stop and ask for help, no matter what level you're at. If you're already a BCBA and you're seeing a behavior you're not comfortable with, talk to another behavior analyst who knows what they're talking about. Because not all of us have seen everything. I know yeah. As an intern, I've not seen everything. And when I see something new, I'm like, oh, I need to go talk to my supervisor. So just things to look for, guys. So I'm gone really long on this training, so I want to wrap it up. So what I wanted to do was share with you guys this form that kind of, in a way, I use it. I don't use this form itself, but I kind of use the same procedures to write my behavior goals and my operational, my behavior and the goals. So it's the same thing we've talked about: who, what, where, when, why, and how. And then you put it all together. So this way you can have all the, you've hit every point before you move on. And then goals, it's the same thing: who, what, where, when, why, how. And then, again, we bring it all together. So that was that form for you guys. If you guys are interested in that one, I can put it in the comment section. I've included some of my helpful links, as always. This one right here, and actually, that all includes SMART. The specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, timely. The goal writing. So these are great. This one specifically is for IEPs. So when you go into an IEP meeting for your child and you hear them say a goal like, whoa, 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 you can add your input like, I want this to be more specific, so that way we can make this goal work for my child. And as always, guys, this is my reference. I'm super pumped because I know I probably said this to you guys before, but I will be getting to meet Dr. Heward at the Penn State, it is going to be the autism conference, but for me it's going to be an actual class, and he's coming to speak to my class. So in the off chance that he gets to see it, I am a Buckeye. I might be at Penn State, but I am a Buckeye at heart. So I wanted to, again, thank you guys so much for watching my videos. Thank you guys for sitting through while I just talk your ear off. I hope you guys got some good information out of this video. If there's ever a time that you need more clarification on something, or I misspoke, please, definitely say, hey, Brittany, back up. You need to restate this. And I will definitely do that. Because I'm new, and mistakes happen, and we're human. Like you saw, I can't apparently spell ensure. But anyway, please like, subscribe, and share this video. I'm on Facebook and YouTube, and if you guys really like what I'm doing on here, eventually I would like to open up a Twitter. Snapchat, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around that one, so I don't think I'll be doing that anytime soon. But again, thank you guys so much, and add comments as to what you guys want to see next, and I look forward to talking with you guys again in the future.